Okay, good evening, everyone. As we're now just a week away from Rosh Hashana, so this evening we're going to try and experience Rosh Hashana from the kabbalist perspective, the way the great mystics of Judaism experience Rosh Hashana, because we're familiar with Rosh Hashana the normal way we experience it. Apples and honey cake and shofar and davening and the great traditions and the meals of Rosh Hashanah. But how do the mystics experience this? Obviously, it's not all about apples and honey, even though the apples and honey is extremely significant. But what does it all mean? What is the power of Rosh Hashanah? What's going on Rosh Hashanah? And particularly because this year Rosh Hashana is going to be different for all of us, we need to go deeper. We can't do Rosh Hashana like we did when we were in Kindi. We have to do it on a deeper, more profound, more meaningful level. And so by looking at the mystical angle, the kabbalistic angle of Rosh Hashana, we'll gain a totally different perspective on how to experience this extremely powerful day. Now, obviously, Rosh Hashanah is the new year, but it's a new year that's different to all other new years. Many cultures have their new years at various different times of our year, but no one celebrates a new year like we do. No one spends half the day in prayer on a new year. No one blows ram's horns either. That's never caught on as a way to celebrate the new year. The seriousness that our new year has, it's a Yom Tov, it's a festival, it's a joyous day, but the intensity of the day is something that's quite unique to any new year celebration of any culture anywhere in the world. And so the reasons behind that will be understood when we understand just how impactful this day is. It's not just another calendar day that we sort of turn over to a new year and it becomes like on the calendar a new date. There's a spiritual event happening on Rosh Hashanah. There is a transformation going on in the universe. And that transformation is something that we are very much a part of. We are a partner in. And so Rosh Hashanah is a day where we, together with Hashem, create a new universe. Let's go into it based on the way the Kabbalists analyze this day. There are several questions found in the writings of the Kabbalists about the uniqueness of Rosh Hashanah, certain aspects of it that set it apart from other festivals. One of them is that Rosh Hashanah is the only festival that we celebrate at the beginning of a Hebrew month, as opposed to in the middle. Most festivals are celebrated on the full moon of the month, which is the 15th of the Hebrew month. For example, Pesach is on the 15th of Nisan. Sukkot is on the 15th of Tishrei. The middle of the month, where the moon is at its strongest, that is a time for festivities. Rosh Hashanah is celebrated on the first of the Hebrew month, the first of Tishrei, when the moon has disappeared, which is an anomaly. It's unusual. There was an idea that the fullness of the moon represents a fullness of revelation, a time of holiness, that when the moon is full and bright, so there's a sense that the world is in a state of divine light. When the moon has disappeared at the beginning of the month is a time of concealment. The moon is not there, the light is gone. And so it's unusual that there should be a festival celebrated at the beginning of the month, the time where the moon is concealed. But even more than that, not only do we celebrate Rosh Hashanah at the first of the month, the new month, but when we celebrate Rosh Hashanah, we make no mention whatsoever about the new month, Rosh Chodesh. See, every month we denote the newness of the month with not a festival, but a day of special prayer called Rosh Chodesh, celebrating the newness of the month. this Rosh Chodesh, which is Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, the beginning of Tishrei, which is Rosh Hashana, we make no mention in our prayers or on the day of the fact that it's Rosh Chodesh. There's no prayer that is added to the Rosh Hashana liturgy mentioning Rosh Chodesh. All the usual things that we say on Rosh Chodesh, such as Hallel and special prayers on Musaf at the additional prayer in the morning, we make no mention of them whatsoever. It's almost like we're ignoring the Rosh Chodesh element of Rosh Hashanah. So, and we go to great lengths to this. For example, this coming Shabbos, the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, we make no mention of the fact that a new month is coming. Every other month of the year, the Shabbos before the new month, we say a special prayer in Shul, and we announce the exact moment that the new moon is going to appear, and we bless the coming month. This Shabbos, which is the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, the Shabbos before the first Rosh Chodesh of the year, we make no mention of the new month. We completely ignore it as if it's not happening. Something's going on here. The Kabbalists say, let's look at this. On the one hand, it's the only festival that's on Rosh Chodesh, the first of the month. And at the same time, we make no mention of the Rosh Chodesh element, as if we're trying to avoid it, as if it's a secret, as if it's something that we can't mention. Don't make mention of Rosh Chodesh. It's completely overlooked. Something suspicious there. There's something in this. In addition to all of this, the Kabbalists point out that why do we celebrate Rosh Hashanah on this day, the first of Tishrei? So the prayers seem to indicate because that's the day that God created the world. This is the beginning of creation. God created the world. And so we're celebrating creation, the renewal of creation. But of course, that's not the case, because the dates actually were that Rosh Hashanah, the first of Tishrei, was the 6th day of creation. The universe was created 6 days before, which means that Rosh Hashanah is not celebrated on the day when the world was created. It was celebrated on the day that the human being was created, the 6th day of creation, which is the creation of the first human being. Why? If we are talking here about the renewal of the universe, why do we wait to the 6th day of creation and celebrate that as Rosh Hashanah? What is happening here in this formation of a yontiv on Rosh Chodesh, the first of the month, but we don't mention that it's Rosh Chodesh, we ignore it. It's the first day of creation, but it's actually not the first day, it's the 6th day of creation. What is going on here? To explain all this, there's an extremely powerful kabbalistic teaching about what happens on Rosh Hashanah. And this is elaborated on by the Alter Rebbe Rabbi Shneur Zalman in Tanya, in Igeres HaKodesh, in his holy letters, number 14, and also in Likutei Torah, his work where his discourses on Rosh Hashanah. It's a teaching from the Arizal, the great Rabbi Yitzchak Luria of Tzfas in the 1500s, that when Rosh Hashanah arrives, as the sun goes down on the last day of the year and Rosh Hashanah comes in, something huge happens in the universe. The life force that maintains existence recedes, disappears, withdraws. The divine energy that props up, maintains, and keeps the universe going withdraws away as the sun goes down on Rosh Hashanah. And the world is left without its life force. And this life force does not come back until the morning of Rosh Hashanah, where a new life comes into the world. And this is achieved through the prayers and the shofar that we blow. What does this mean? From a kabbalistic perspective, the world was not just created once upon a time, that God created a world and left it. The world can only exist because God maintains it constantly. He's pumping divine energy into existence at every moment. The metaphor that Kabbalists use is like light shining into the world. There's a divine light shining into the world to keep it going constantly. If that light would not be there, the world cannot exist. So not just once upon a time did God create the world, but constantly God is creating, recreating, reforming, maintaining, energizing the world. So as you sit there and I sit here, we're being energized. There's an energy power within us that's giving us life. Sometimes we feel it, sometimes we don't feel it, but it's always there. There's this feeling of being alive. Not just me and you, but the entire universe. There's a light, a divine light that is being pumped into the universe constantly, giving it existence. Without that light, the world cannot continue. The metaphor that the Kabbalists use for that is the moon. That the sun and the moon, the two heavenly bodies that we observe from Earth, the sun is a light that is constantly shining. The moon is a light that is a reflection of the sun. It's not its own light. The moon doesn't have its own light. It reflects the light of the sun to us. And the difference is that you cannot look at the sun. The sun is too bright. It would burn you. It would blind you if you looked at the sun. But the moon you can look at, because the moon is just a reflection of the sun. It's not the sun's direct light, but it's a reflected light. And so because it's not the essential light of the sun, it's a reflected light of the sun. So we can actually look at it and experience that light. In a similar way, God gives us existence by reflecting his light on us. If we would receive direct divine light, if God would shine directly into us, if we would have a first-hand direct experience of the divine, it would overwhelm us. We would lose our existence. God is infinite. We are finite beings. And finiteness in the face of infinity gets completely lost. We would be subsumed by the divine light. So what God does is he hides his infinite light and allows just a reflection of light to infuse the universe with existence. It's not direct divine light that we receive, it's a reflected divine light that enlivens us and gives us existence. Otherwise, we couldn't survive. Only the reflected light of God. Which means that when we look at the vast universe, every single detail within it, every single atom, from the tiniest of tiny atom to the hugest of planets in the world, all of that is being created by a divine reflection of light, a reflection of his light. It's not that the universe is an amazing achievement for God to create. On the contrary, it's just a reflection of his light. It gets all of its existence just from a reflection of the divine light. Like the sun reflects onto the moon, God reflects his light, and a smidgen of divine energy is what gives all of this world its existence. But on Rosh Hashana, that light disappears. On Rosh Hashana, the light that is energizing the world withdraws and disappears. Some of the kabbalists could feel this. Some of the kabbalists said that on the afternoon and the evening of Rosh Hashana, just as the sun was going down, they felt themselves becoming weak. They felt a lethargy coming into the world because the divine light that until then had been infusing the world with existence has withdrawn, and they could actually feel it. Like you and I feel when we're exhausted, when we're completely our energy's gone, we're finished. The world, the entire universe is like that at the end of the year. the entire world is in a state of exhaustion because the divine light recedes from it. In fact, the kabbalists are puzzled as to how the world actually exists after this light recedes. Because without the divine light, how can it be maintained? Why doesn't the world completely disappear? And they say that it's sort of like on autopilot. It's a bit like, again, a bit like us when we're exhausted, when our soul has left us, we have nothing left. Our functions still go. Our functions still continue, but sort of on autopilot. Like when you're asleep. So you're still alive. Your soul has left the body, but you're still alive. You're still breathing. Your heart is pumping. Your digestive system is still going. There's a lot of stuff happening, but you're not really there. And so if in that state, when you're half asleep, somebody tries to have a conversation with you, you probably don't make much sense and can't really follow what's going on. It's not a good time to make big decisions. It's in a similar way, the world at the end of the year, just as Rosh Hashana comes in, its energy is completely withdrawn, and it is an exhausted state. The more sensitive souls felt it. They had to lie down. As Rosh Hashanah was coming in, they had to actually lie down. They felt energyless, empty. Why is this happening? Why is the world losing its energy as Rosh Hashanah comes in? Because God created the world in such a way that the energy in the world only lasts a year. Every year gets on Rosh Hashanah a pocket of energy, a flow of existence, a particular soul that year has, but that soul has a use-by date. It only lasts a year. At the end of the year, it goes. It's withdrawn. And for the next year to continue, a new soul has to be invited in. Every year has its own personality, has its own character, has its energy, its soul. But that soul is just for that year. Once it's gone, it's gone. And the new year has a new soul and a new energy and a new character and a new personality. We see this. We know this because we talk about, that was a tough year. Something that you hear quite often these days. But that year, wow, that's a year that I'm glad it's over. I'm happy to welcome a new one. And if you look back at your life, you'll see that certain years had certain flavors. Not that everything happened the same in the entire year, but every year has a little bit of its own style. It's a character. It's like for the past year, we've lived with a certain character as a part of our extended family, who's been in the background in everything that we do. And then that character leaves and a new one comes. A new energy comes into the world. But that new energy doesn't come into the world on its own. It doesn't automatically come. It has to be invited in. The old recedes. There's a certain emptiness, a void into which the new energy of the new year has to be invited in by choice, by us. We have to bring it down. So the Kabbalists say that on the night of Rosh Hashana, the old year has disappeared. We stay in a bit of a state of limbo. The world is on autopilot, in a state of slumber from the night of Rosh Hashana when the sun goes down, next Monday, until the next day, until the first day Rosh Hashana in the morning, through the prayers and the shofar blowing that we do, the energy, the intent, the feeling, the thoughts, the focus that we have as we pray and we blow the shofar is what draws in the energy of the new year to come. Until that happens, things are in limbo. When we blow the shofar and we said the prayers, it's happened. The new year has come. the new soul has come down. And so the way the Kabbalists were on the night of Rosh Hashanah, they were very serious. They didn't muck around on the night of Rosh Hashanah, because this was the in-between time when the old is gone, the new is not here yet, and every move we make is going to shape and determine the coming year. And so many Kabbalists will be careful with every word they said on the night of Rosh Hashanah. They didn't talk idle talk, and certainly no negative talk. And they were careful. They would be careful with every conversation they did have, every word that came out of their mouth, and every mood that they expressed on the night of Rosh Hashanah is going to have huge ramifications. This is why there was an emphasis of eating sweet foods on the night of Rosh Hashanah. And our tradition to dip the challah in honey, apples in honey, to eat sweet foods, to not eat bitter foods and sour foods. It's not so much the food, it's you. Are you in a sweet state or a sour state? This is going to make a difference because you're creating the new year now. One of the great Kabbalists said that the reason why we don't eat sour food is because when you do eat sour food, you make a little bit of a wince in your face. It's like you scrunch up your face. That scrunched up face, you don't want to set that face in stone. You don't want to be in that state when you're creating the new energy of the year. So the sweetness is not about the taste. It's about you, the state you're in, the energy you're giving off. It should be sweet and positive and happy and joyous. The blessings we give each other, when we wish each other Shana Torah, have a sweet year, happy year, should be inscribed and written and sealed in the book of life for a good year. Those words that we say are not just platitudes, nice greetings. They actually have power and energy. We're creating the new year by blessing each other. And the prayers that we say are not just nice traditional prayers. They are inviting the divine energy into the world. They're saying, God, we want you. We want to bring you back. We want your soul energy to come into us and into the world. If you look carefully at the prayers of Rosh Hashanah, there's no mention of sins. There's no asking for forgiveness. There's no saying we've done wrong. We do that on Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah, not at all. On Rosh Hashanah, it's all about God, you are our king. You are our life force. You are the energy of everything. Be king over the entire world. Bring your light into the world. That's the whole theme of Rosh Hashanah. The kingship of God, which means God's energy enlivening the world again. We're inviting him back. It's like in any relationship, there are certain moments, particularly when a relationship is a little bit on the rocks or going through something difficult, there's a moment where you have to ask the question, am I in this relationship or am I not in this relationship? Is this going forward or not? Am I committed or not? We don't think about this every second. We can't. You've got to get on with life. But sometimes you have to make a reckoning and say, am I in or not? And this is what is happening on Rosh Hashanah. God is saying, I want to be in this relationship with you and the world, but I need you. I need you to want it as well. So he takes a step back and he waits for our answer. What is our response? Are we in or not? Do we want to be connected to God or not? It's our choice. We have to choose this because no relationship is a relationship if it's forced. The very definition of a relationship is you choose it. You're in it because you want to be in it. Even our relationship with God. And so to give us that choice, he creates that space. He moves back and he says, okay, the world has had its year. Do you want another one? Are you in for this? And our response is given in our prayers, where we give a resounding yes, and we call out to God with the shofar and say, yes, we are in, we are committed. We want to be more spiritually in tune this year. We want to fulfill our mission this year. We want to do more good and bring more light into the world this year. Give us the energy to do it, because we can't do it without you. Why was Rosh Hashana chosen as this day, the day where God pulls back and asks to be invited back in? Why that day specifically? We understand now why it was on Rosh Chodesh. Because Rosh Chodesh is the day when the moon disappears. The light, the divine light, the reflection of light that energizes the world has gone on the first day of the month, where the moon is gone, the moon disappears. And we don't mention Rosh Chodesh because usually on a normal Rosh Chodesh, every other first day of the Hebrew month, what we're celebrating is the new moon that is appearing. The old moon disappeared, a new moon is coming. But this Rosh Chodesh on Tishrei, on Rosh Hashana, we don't know if it's coming. We have to make it come. So we make no mention of Rosh Chodesh because there's nothing to celebrate until we have created that new world. There's no world yet until we've invited the divine light in to renew it. But why do we do it on this Rosh Chodesh? Why is Rosh Hashana particularly on this beginning of the month? It could be any month. As we said, because this is the day that the first human beings were created, Adam and Eve. The day that Adam and Eve were created was the first day where a conscious being could have a relationship with God that was by choice. If you think about the universe before Adam and Eve were there were trees, animals, fish, birds, plants, planets, galaxies, but all of that is a silent world that has no choice, that has no moral voice. All of creation, except for the human being, does what it's created to do, follows its instinct, but has no choice in the matter. The human being was the first conscious being, self-conscious being, who can be aware of God and can choose to bring him into our life. On the anniversary of the creation of the human being, that's every year, Rosh Hashanah, the same choice. Adam and Eve had to choose. Do I live a life just material and physical, just enjoying the world around me, devoid of any meaning? Or do I choose to look up and see a higher purpose for my life? Adam and Eve chose that. And every year, on the anniversary of their creation and the anniversary of their realizing that, we're given the same choice. And God says, are you in or not? Are you in on this project of creating a meaningful, loving, holy universe? If you're in, I'm in, says God. If you're in, I give the world its energy. And so it's specifically on the 1st of Tishrei that this happens every single year. And you and I, through our prayers, we have to create this new life force. The soul of the coming year is still indeterminate. We don't know what it will be. It could be anything. And anything can happen in this coming year. If one thing we've learned in the last couple of years, anything can happen. The most unexpected thing can happen. Things can happen very fast. Things can change extremely quickly. The next year, we have no idea what's in store. But we're not passive observers of what the next year is. We are active partners in creating it. That's what Rosh Hashanah is. We are inviting the new soul to come down. So if you think about it, Rosh Hashanah has sort of a dance of three parts. As Rosh Hashanah comes in, the old disappears. The old soul is gone. And there's a certain experience of that. We need, on the night of Rosh Hashanah, as we welcome in the new year, we also have to farewell the old year. We have to look back and say, what have we experienced in this last year that will be lasting? There were many fleeting experiences that we had, but what will be the lasting experience? What will we be taking away from this year as we farewell it and let go its energy? But we also have to think, what do I not want to take with me from this past year? And not just the bad experiences from the outside, but my internal self. My soul is being renewed on Rosh Hashana, which means the old soul, the old being, is being farewelled. What part of my character, of my behavior, of my habits, what area do I want to leave with the old, let it just dissipate and go, and open something new? And you can actually visualize and feel this, like the kabbalists who felt the exhaustion of the energy being dissipated. You can feel that in a positive sense, that you're being cleansed of the patterns of the past. You do not have to be defined by last year, because last year is gone. Not that we ignore the past or as if nothing happened, but the you that defined yourself, that identified in a certain way with certain behaviors and habits, that doesn't have to be you of the next year. Even if it was the you of the last year. You recognize that, you acknowledge it, it's a part of your story, but it doesn't have to be the next part of the story, because last year is going. So acknowledge that as Rosh Hashana comes in, as the sun goes down this coming Monday night. Acknowledge the last year with its blessings and its challenges, but it's over. It's gone. And then from that moment, you go into this limbo state where the new year has not yet been invited in. That'll be tomorrow morning. That'll be Tuesday morning in the prayers and the shofar. But until then, there's an in-between state where we're not here, we're not there. Last year's gone. This year hasn't really come yet. And so during that time, I'm a clean slate. There's no foregone conclusions. There's no prejudices. I can create the me that will be. You can feel a certain freedom and lightness of saying that I can start new patterns and new habits and a new direction. And I will do that by being surrounded with sweetness, with positivity, emphasizing that it will be good. It is good. Things are good. You are good. You bless each other. You bless yourself. Because there's no definition now. I'm not defined by anything. I'm creating a new definition. That's the night during the meal of Rosh Hashana, the evening prayers. And then in the morning prayers are where we're starting to invite this new year down. And we say from the depth of our soul to God, yes, we are in. We're in for this new year. We're up for it. We're up for whatever it'll be. We're praying for sweetness, for goodness, for blessing. And we're confident it'll be there. But we're in. We're in. That's what we're saying in our prayers. You know, the shofar is the moment when this new energy comes into the world. Because blowing a shofar is taking the inner breath from the depth of a person and exhaling it out to make a sound. Just like when you speak, you exhale breath and you say words. When you blow a shofar, you're exhaling, but from a deeper place. And what you create is something deeper than words. When you hear the shofar, contemplate that what's happening then is we're tuning into the sound of a soul, pre-verbal. Before you can express any words, the deepest depth of who you are is calling out to the deepest depth of God. and saying that I am in this. I'm going to be alive. Something that has been a challenge for us in recent times is being fully alive. In some ways, being disconnected and dislocated and thrown around as we've been recently sometimes allows us to disconnect somewhat from life. We're just surviving. We're just getting through the day. And because we're not as connected to the world around us in many ways, so that can be a bit deadening of the soul. This year's shofar has to be a revival of the soul. We're opening up that raw part of ourselves to say, I'm alive. I'm living and experiencing whatever my life is now. It can't be what my life is going to be when things get back to whatever. There's no getting back. There's now. I've got to be alive right now. And so the shofar blowing is the soul saying, I'm alive, I'm here. Before any description, any expectation, any definition, I'm here and I'm alive, I'm in. And after we experience that, after we say the prayers and blow the shofar, we have to have an absolute confidence that we've done it. We've brought in the soul for the new year, and it's going to be good. You know, the kabbalists taught that the blessings we say on the night of Rosh Hashana, you should have a sweet year, you should be written in the book of life. You don't say them anymore after saying the morning prayers. You don't wish people you should be written in the book of life. That's happened already. We've been written in the book of life. We've drawn down life into the world. We're so confident it's already happened. The tradition in most communities is on the second night of Rosh Hashana, we don't eat apples dipped in honey. We continue dipping the challah in honey, but we don't eat apples dipped in honey anymore. We don't need to eat all these sweet foods on the second night because we've done it already. We've brought the sweetness in already. The sweetness has to be in us. The apples and honey has to be internalized, but you don't have to wish it anymore. You don't have to bless it anymore. It's there. We have the confidence, the surety, the certainty to know that it's happened, it's done. And that's a part of this whole process, to know that we have done and we've done the right thing. We've brought the divine light into the world. The new soul is here and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. This is the full kabbalistic experience of Rosh Hashana. And this year, you and I have to be these kabbalists. In previous years, you could rely on a communal experience when you're in a space in shul where the prayers and the shofar blowing and everything that's going on, you can go along with the flow of that. And you contribute your bit to it. But you can assume that like the collective energy of the community is achieving what has to be achieved for Rosh Hashana. And it is, and it does. But this year, that collective energy is not going to be in the same room. It's going to be in the same spiritual space, but physically separated. So you and I have to create this energy on our own this year. We have to make the night of Rosh Hashana into a night of focus, of positive energy. If we're going to sit there and feel sorry for ourselves for what we're missing out on, or be nostalgic of Rosh Hashanahs that used to be and it can't be now, it's understandable, but that's losing an incredible opportunity, because this is the night where we're creating the new year. It's not a night, you can't eat sour foods tonight. You can't make sour faces. So we have to actually embrace exactly that opportunity, whatever it is, whatever state you're going to be in, whoever you will be with or not with, this is your Rosh Hashanah, and you've got to make it sweet. We can't just sit on Rosh Hashanah morning and think, well, if I would go to shul, I'd be going here or there, I'd see this person, that person, and now I'm stuck here. It's true, understandable why we feel that way, But we can't afford it because we're drawing down the energy of the year now. You've got to be the kabbalist that your prayers, your focus, your meditation is drawing down the soul for the new year. Not just for yourself, for the entire world. So this has got to be the most spiritually powerful Rosh Hashana ever. And it will be. Because while usually on Rosh Hashana, we create this holiness in a shul, this year, the holiness, the energy, the light is being brought down in your home. Your home is becoming this beacon of light where the divine energy is invited and beckoned into the world. And you're the kabbalist. So may we all have the strength, the focus, and the positivity to farewell the patterns of the last year, take in the lessons and blessings that we need to take with us, and focus on the new power, the new soul that is waiting for all of us.